Before we really talk about modes, we're going to need to spend time talking about intervals because those intervals are going to help us understand the theory behind the modes and how we can apply these modes to different chords. So first of all, what is an interval? An interval is the unit of measure we're going to use to measure the distance between two different notes. And there are 8 types of intervals: the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, also known as the octave. Let's talk a little bit about that octave, because that octave is a very special interval. If I play an open string on the low E string, the 6th string, and I play on the same string the 12th fret, these two notes are actually the same notes. We've got an E on the low note, that's a low E, and on the 12th fret we've got an E as well. The distance between these two E's, although they're the same notes, they're the same E's, they sound different. The distance between these two notes is going to be an octave. So the octave is going to be the reference. The octave is going to be the highest interval we're going to find, the biggest interval, the widest. And that means that between these two E's, we've got a lot of different intervals. And we're going to find the second, third, fourth, fifth, 6th, and 7th, and all the way up to the octave. Now, if we take a closer look here, between these two notes that I played the first one on the open string, fret 0, and the other one was on fret number 12. We've got 12 different frets between these two notes, and we just said that we have only 8 intervals, 8 types of intervals, as opposed to 12. The reason is some of these intervals are going to have different classifications. Like the second, for example, we don't just have a straight second. We have either a minor second or a major second. Same for the third. We've got a minor third or a major third. Now, some intervals, such as the fourth, we don't have minor or major fourths. We've got a natural fourth, also known as the perfect fourth, and then we can have a diminished fourth, which means that the interval, the perfect fourth interval, is diminished by 1 half step. So that interval is going to be a little bit smaller than the natural fourth, or an augmented fourth, a little bit bigger. So the difference between two notes is going to be a little wider. Same for the fifth. We're going to have a perfect fifth or a natural fifth, and then we can have a diminished fifth. So that interval is going to be diminished. The distance between the two notes is going to be smaller, so you'll have less frets. Or augmented. And augmented, the distance between the two notes is going to be augmented. You have more frets. The sixth, we've got a minor sixth and a major sixth, and same for the seventh, minor seventh and major seventh. So if we take all these different types of intervals, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, and so forth, we will have covered the whole spectrum of these 12 different frets, from this low E to the high E on the 12th fret. So these intervals are very important, and you need to make sure that you know the names and the different types of intervals that we have. And to do so, instead of just having a sheet to learn with all the intervals and really memorize how many frets we have between these intervals, that's going to take a lot of time, and that's time that you can't afford in a situation where you need to come up with a fast, creative idea on your instrument. So I came up with a simple way, a few diagrams here that you're going to have to memorize. Now, these diagrams, there are 4 different types of diagrams that I came up with. One is going to start with all the intervals that you're going to find in the same area of the fretboard, from the root, which is the first note, the reference note, to the octave. And the first diagram is going to cover these intervals on the 6th string, the low E string. The next diagram is going to be for those intervals found on the 5th string, and then on the 4th string, and then on the 3rd string. And if you have these 4 diagrams memorized, you'll be able to find any type of interval right away, because you would have spent time memorizing these 4 different diagrams. Now, to simplify a little bit visually these diagrams, I didn't put all the intervals on there. What I did is just write down the major intervals and the natural intervals. So we have here the major second, the major third, the natural fourth, because once again there's no such thing as major fourth, there's just a natural fourth, natural fifth, major sixth, and major seventh. If you have memorized these intervals there, you can just deduct if someone asks you to play the minor seventh. Minor is a smaller interval than the major interval, always. You just go to your major seventh, for example, and just diminish that interval. So you're going to reduce the distance between these two notes by 1/2 step in order to get that minor interval. Same for the diminished intervals. If someone asks you to play a diminished fourth, just go to your perfect fourth and diminish that interval by 1/2 step, which is 1 fret lower. If someone asks you for an augmented fifth, just go to your natural fifth and augment that interval by 1/2 step. Make it a little bigger. That's going to really help you out if you have just these 4 diagrams memorized. You'll be able to play any interval right away on the spot, and that's really what is important here.